Every year, usually during our graduation ceremonies, UBC has the honor of bestowing honorary degrees upon individuals who, in the opinion of the university community, have fit the criteria of excellence and eminence in their chosen field. Bonnie Henry exemplifies these characteristics, and it is our pleasure to grant her an honorary degree. Rare are the circumstances in which the name of a public health officer becomes universally known. Yet such is the case here in British Columbia, and for sound reason. Dr. Bonnie Henry is the calm voice and the assured face of the COVID-19 pandemic response, and she has led the government response from a rational, scientific perspective, helping to save the lives of countless British Columbians. Dr. Henry received her medical training at Dalhousie University, followed by residencies in public health and preventive medicine at the University of California, San Diego, and the University of Toronto. She worked with the World Health Organization in 2000 and traveled to Pakistan to take part in the polio eradication program. Her next assignment was in Uganda to support the response to the first Ebola outbreak. Back in Canada, she joined Toronto Public Health, where she was the operational lead of the response to the SARS outbreak in 2003. In 2005, she came to BC as a physician epidemiologist for the BC Centre for Disease Control, where she led the response to the 2009 H1N1 influenza pandemic. After a series of escalating leadership positions, she was named Provincial Health Officer in 2018. Recently described by the New York Times as one of the most effective public health officials in the world, Dr. Henry has exemplified both the expertise and the courage required to endure the glare of public light during a challenging and politically tumultuous time. She is also a gifted communicator and the author of 2 books, Soap and Water and Common Sense, and Be Kind, Be Calm, Be Safe. 4 weeks that shaped the pandemic. I hasten to add, with more than an inkling of pride, that she is also a clinical associate professor in the UBC School of Population and Public Health. In recognition of her committed expertise, courageous service, and unwavering humanitarianism, we are pleased to confer the degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa, upon Dr. Bonnie Henry. It now gives me great pleasure to ask Dr. Henry to say a few words.
Mr. Chancellor, Mr. President, and members of the UBC community, I am so very honored to receive this degree and recognition, and especially so at this most difficult time in our pandemic. As I wrote these words I'm sharing with you today, I was thinking about the purpose and meaning of life's important ceremonies. In this particular year, when so many of these important ceremonies, those marking our most important moments and transitions in life, have been changed dramatically, or sometimes postponed, or even canceled. I'm thinking of everything from births to weddings to graduations to funerals. And I'm thinking of high school proms and royal deaths. There's no person who has escaped this storm that has enveloped the globe in BC, in Canada, and around the world. The sight of Queen Elizabeth sitting alone and apart in the chapel at her husband's funeral was one recent dramatically poignant image of our loss and sacrifice. But I know too that there are so many more moments, seen and unseen, public and private, that now mark us all in this time. I'm poignantly reminded too that loss has not affected us all equally. Yes, we have all suffered losses, and we have all been called upon to sacrifice in ways small and large for the sake of our common good in this past year. Where I come from, we have a saying that common suffering builds strong bonds. Through this storm, we have witnessed each other's suffering, and I believe that it is this connection that you and I must remember as we enter a new phase as this storm ebbs. Rachel Carson, the author of Silent Spring, she said, "Most of us walk unseeing through the world, unaware alike of its beauties, its wonders, and the tragic intensity of the lives being lived about us." I think that this year has been a time of reckoning and witnessing, and it has revealed much that we now cannot help but see more clearly. First and foremost, that scale of inequity and injustice in our society. This year has shown us that women, racialized communities, Indigenous peoples, and youth have suffered disproportionately from COVID-19 and from the measures we put in place, often because of inequities that have long existed before this pandemic began. But instead of continuing to walk unseeing through the world, now we can choose to use our suffering and all that we have witnessed to build a better path forward. By COVID-19 pandemic defined 2020, it is our collective emergence from this storm that will define 2021. We can see clearly that our ability to weather this storm has depended on our ability to lift each other up, and that for each of us, our personal resilience is dependent on our community resilience, those we know and those we do not. When the storm has fully passed, our task will be to examine what has been tossed on the shore and exposed, and to understand it. Already, we have learned that science, when combined with purpose, collaboration, and compassion, can lead to seeming miracles. Perhaps the most striking and moving example of what we can achieve can be witnessed in how the lives of our elders and seniors, those most hurt by this virus, changed after we were able to provide safe and effective vaccines. We have also this past year witnessed science in action. This has been a source of both hope and, for some, of fear. As we have seen, this can lead to anxiety and alarm for some people, even to lashing out in anger or becoming paralyzed with anxiety. But we have to remember that science is not static or absolute. Innovation, new thinking, and new solutions only come with challenge and change. Science in action requires us to learn as we go, changing our course and our advice as our knowledge grows. Our only way through, as we have learned, is to respond with calm and with kindness, to show compassion and understanding of each other's suffering in these relentlessly uncertain times. As we have seen time and again, that we can choose to be adaptable and resilient, that social connections, even virtual, are essential to our lives, that compassion is stronger than cynicism, and that there is still beauty and joy in the world, even when we suffer. To the graduates this year, be proud of what you have achieved in this most difficult pandemic years, what you have achieved really against all odds, and know that all that you have witnessed and learned in overcoming the obstacles of this year will mark your generation. And it is also an opportunity that you now have. Your task is to find the way to harness the compassion and resilience we have witnessed, to find ways to use that bonds of common suffering to build back stronger and more just. Congratulations to all of the graduates, and thank you so much for this honor. What I'd like the graduates to think about is this has been a very difficult time, and we've seen all kinds of responses to it, but you have come across and learned and accomplished goals this year by graduating in a really challenging time. And remember that it's hard, and hardness is growth, and you can get through this and you can learn from this together. And remember those times when somebody reached out to you in kindness through this, and how that made you feel and how that helped you get through this, because it is very much us supporting each other that makes it the resiliency of us as an individual is dependent on the resiliency of the community around us. And we have this building that we do together around that. So you are a generation that has suffered, tremendously in many ways, and you've grown in many ways. And you need to take that and help us move forward as a community and as a world, to build back and to address some of the things that were really hard for all of us this year.